and a bright morning when seagulls danced in salty air. 10-year-old Diego Martinez and 9-year-old Coral Thompson raced along the rocky coastline toward the old lighthouse that had guided ships for over 100 years, their hearts full of excitement about exploring the mysterious tower. As they climbed the lighthouse's winding stone steps, Diego and Coral discovered Keeper Samuel polishing the great lamp with careful hands, while Captain Whiskers, the orange tabby cat, watched from a sunny windowsill, his mismatched eyes twinkling with curiosity about the young visitors. Keeper Samuel smiled warmly at his young visitors, explaining how the lighthouse had protected ships for decades, but recently strange flashing lights appeared on the horizon each night, creating a mystery that puzzled him greatly and kept him awake wondering about their meaning. As sunset painted the sky orange and pink, Diego pulled out his Morse code charts while Coral arranged her collection of shells, both children settling in to help Samuel solve the mystery of the flashing lights that would soon begin their nightly dance. As darkness fell over the ocean, mysterious flashing lights began appearing on the distant horizon, creating patterns that seemed almost like a language, while Diego frantically tried to match them to his Morse code charts, and Coral watched with growing fascination and concern. Suddenly, Diego's eyes widened with excitement as he recognized the pattern. It wasn't Morse code at all, but something much more amazing. The lights were creating the rhythm of whale songs, and Coral gasped as she realized the ocean's giants were calling for help. Captain Whiskers suddenly arched his back and hissed softly toward the horizon, his mismatched eyes reflecting an ancient wisdom, as if he too understood the whale families were lost in dangerous waters, separated from their migration routes, and desperately seeking safe passage home. Samuel grabbed his binoculars and telescope, scanning the dark waters while explaining that whale families often became confused by ship lights and underwater noise, losing their way during migration, and ending up in dangerous shallow waters, where they could become stranded on hidden rocks and reefs. Through the telescope, Samuel spotted several dark shapes moving slowly through the water near the treacherous Devil's Reef, and his face grew pale with worry as he realized the whale families were heading directly toward the most dangerous rocks on the entire coastline. Diego and Coral looked at each other with determination, knowing they had to help somehow. But just as they began planning a rescue, the lighthouse's main lamp started flickering ominously, and Samuel's face filled with horror as he realized their beacon might fail completely. As Samuel worked desperately to repair the failing lamp, dark storm clouds began gathering on the horizon, and Captain Whiskers meowed urgently while pacing between the window and his human friends, clearly sensing that time was running out for everyone in danger. Just when hope seemed lost, Coral remembered something wonderful. Her grandmother had taught her that whales could understand human songs, and if they sang the right melody, they might be able to guide the whale families away from danger using the ancient language of the sea. Diego's eyes lit up with excitement as he realized they could combine Coral's whale songs with his Morse code knowledge, creating light signals that matched the rhythm of her melodies, giving them a way to communicate with both the whales and any ships in the stormy waters. As the storm grew stronger and waves crashed higher against the lighthouse rocks, Samuel made a difficult decision. The main lamp was beyond repair, but they could still save lives by creating a human chain of lanterns to guide everyone to safety. Captain Whiskers suddenly ran to the lighthouse door and meowed insistently, his sailor instincts telling him they needed to go outside onto the dangerous rocky platform to create the lantern chain, even though the storm was making the rocks slippery and treacherous to navigate. Bravely stepping into the howling wind and stinging rain, the lighthouse team made their way carefully along the slippery rocks, with Captain Whiskers leading the way despite the danger, his small form somehow finding safe footing that the humans could follow in the darkness. Positioning themselves at strategic points along the rocky coastline, Diego, Coral, Samuel, and Captain Whiskers formed their human and feline lantern chain, with each person holding their light high, while Coral began singing the ancient whale melodies her grandmother had taught her years ago in peaceful times. As Coral's haunting whale songs carried across the stormy waters, Diego flashed his lantern in precise Morse code patterns that matched her melodies, creating a unique combination of light and sound that had never been attempted before in maritime rescue operations, bridging human and whale communication. Suddenly, through the storm and darkness, answering whale songs began echoing back across the water, deeper and more powerful than Coral had ever heard, as the whale families recognized her ancient melodies and began responding with their own calls of gratitude and understanding. With growing excitement, the lighthouse team realized their plan was working as the whale songs grew stronger and seemed to be moving away from the dangerous Devil's Reef, following the guidance of Coral's melodies and Diego's synchronized light signals towards safer, deeper waters where ships could navigate safely. But just as victory seemed within reach, Samuel spotted something terrifying through his telescope. A large cargo ship was approaching through the storm, its crew unaware of both the whale families and the dangerous reef that could destroy both ship and whales in a catastrophic collision that would end in tragedy. Samuel shouted over the howling wind to Diego and Coral, explaining that they must now guide both the whale families and the cargo ship away from Devil's Reef, turning their rescue mission into the most challenging maritime emergency any of them had ever faced. Diego realized he needed to create different Morse code patterns, says, one to warn the cargo ship about the reef, and another to continue guiding the whale families to safety, while his lantern became the critical communication link between two different species and two different types of vessels in distress. Coral discovered she could modify her whale songs to include warning calls that whales use to alert each other about dangerous obstacles, while also adding melodies that would carry across the water to help the ship's crew understand they were approaching treacherous rocks and needed to change course immediately. Captain Whiskers suddenly arched his back and pointed his tail toward a new danger. More ships were appearing on the horizon, drawn by the lighthouse's emergency signals, but heading directly toward the same treacherous waters where the rescue operation was already challenging enough. As more ships appeared through the storm, Samuel made a desperate decision to activate the lighthouse's emergency foghorn and every available signal device, creating a cacophony of warning sounds that would alert all vessels to the danger, while Diego and Coral coordinated their rescue efforts with the mechanical signals. Through the combined efforts of foghorn warnings, lantern signals, and whale songs, the first cargo ship began changing course away from Devil's Reef, while the whale families moved steadily toward deeper, safer waters, proving that the Lighthouse team's unprecedented rescue methods were actually working against all odds and expectations. But just as hope filled their hearts, Captain Whiskers hissed urgently and pointed toward the water. One young whale had become separated from its family during the chaos and was swimming directly toward the sharp rocks, crying out desperately for help in the dark, stormy night. Coral made a brave decision to focus all her energy on the lost young whale, singing the most powerful guidance songs her grandmother had ever taught her, while Diego created the brightest lantern signals possible to help the frightened whale family member find its way back to safety and reunion. Through the storm darkness, answering whale songs began calling back. The young whale's family had heard Coral's guidance and were swimming toward their lost member, while the frightened young whale began following Diego's lantern signals away from the dangerous rocks toward the safety of deeper waters and family reunion. As the whale family reunited with joyful songs that echoed across the stormy waters, Samuel reported through his telescope that all the cargo ships had successfully changed course and were navigating safely around Devil's Reef, avoiding the catastrophic collision that had seemed inevitable just hours before. Captain Whiskers began purring loudly for the first time all night, his sailor instincts telling him the immediate danger had passed, while the Lighthouse team realized they had accomplished something unprecedented, saving both human and whale lives through a combination of ancient wisdom, modern technology, and pure determination. As dawn began breaking through the storm clouds, painting the sky with the first hints of pink and gold, the Lighthouse team made their way carefully back inside, exhausted but proud of their night's work that had proven love and determination could overcome any obstacle. Inside the warm lighthouse, as they shared hot cocoa and dried off from their stormy adventure, Diego, Coral, Samuel, and Captain Whiskers realized they had learned the most important lesson of all, that working together with different skills and perspectives could solve problems that seemed impossible alone. As the morning sun climbed higher and the storm finally moved out to sea, whale songs of gratitude echoed across the calm waters one final time, while cargo ships in the distance signaled their thanks with horn blasts that acknowledged the Lighthouse team's life-saving efforts throughout the dangerous night. Diego carefully wrote the entire adventure in his notebook, documenting the new Morse code and whale song combinations they had discovered, while Coral created a special shell arrangement to honor her grandmother's wisdom that had made their successful whale communication possible during the emergency rescue mission. Samuel contacted the Coast Guard to report the successful rescue operation and the innovative techniques they had developed, while maritime authorities began planning to study and potentially implement the Lighthouse team's groundbreaking combination of human communication and whale behavior, understanding for future emergency responses and maritime safety improvements. As the day progressed, news of the Lighthouse team's incredible rescue spread throughout the coastal community, with fishermen, sailors, and marine biologists all expressing amazement at the successful combination of traditional maritime skills, technical innovation, and natural whale communication that had prevented multiple disasters. By evening, as golden sunset light filled the lighthouse once again, Diego, Coral, Samuel, and Captain Whiskers realized their adventure had changed them forever, teaching them that courage, friendship, and innovative thinking could overcome any challenge when people worked together with respect and determination. As stars began appearing in the clear night sky, and the lighthouse beam resumed its eternal watch over the sea, the four friends knew they would always remember the night they learned that love, courage, and working together could create miracles that seemed impossible when facing life's greatest storms and challenges.